So I'm going to start with preparing the layers. I've baked here 2 different flavors, vanilla and chocolate. So if you don't want to make a mix, you can just stick to one. I've got, I don't think I've got that much of the chocolate, but I've definitely got the vanilla. If you want just vanilla. I'm going to send you the links so that you can see how I made this sponge. It's a nice light sponge. It's not like the Victoria sponge you got used with. As I said, I'm just trying to give you some variation so that you can try different things.
Yeah.
As 99.99% of my students love the combination. I'm sure you will too. But in case that you don't, then inside of the cake you can put whatever you prefer. So I'm going to start cutting. I usually bake my cakes in layers. I don't use round tins because I got fed up in just stacking piles of baking trays, so I don't use them anymore. What I use are baking trays, perforated. I've got it's not a professional oven, it's a semi-professional oven, and I can fit 4 of those in the oven. Or I've got some larger trays when I bake other stuff, things like macarons or different type of pastry work. They are double in size, so I can fit 2 into the oven. But the baking time is super quick, so it takes like 15 minutes to bake a cake rather than just waiting for hours.
Yeah.
And I use the reusable silicone paper, which again works great for macarons and for any kind of cake. So trying to save a little bit instead of using baking paper or parchment paper. This reusable paper works beautiful. And the fact that the tray is perforated, it just helps the baking to get even. So there is a little bit of trimming to be done. I normally don't level, but in case that you would like to get a perfect finishing, what I would recommend you is just to use a knife. Now this is a short knife, I've got longer knives, which I normally use. And you will need one as well, because if not, you'll be very limited about the size of the blade. And I use those bits which you can purchase Amazon, eBay, and they probably cost you £2, £3 per pair. And you just have to push this bit in and then just select the height. Yeah, say 1, 2, 3, the third one, and then just do the same. And then you start slicing. So it just makes everything to look perfectly even. It works really good. The only thing which you have to be aware is you have to work on the edge of the table, because obviously you have to keep the handle and make sure that those 2 will rest on the table. But it's a beautiful and very easy way to make everything to look leveled. But using my method with baking, I probably don't have to worry too much because everything looks good. So I'm going to start building the cake upside down, and the reason why I do it is that I'm going to transfer them in the freezer. I'm going to make the top flat, so when I take it out from the freezer, I will just set it on my final board, and the top will be perfectly leveled, so it's a little bit less working board. So I'm going to cover this with a cling film once, because I know it's going to be clean, so I don't have to worry about polishing this board, but mainly because once I start building my cake on here, it will probably get stuck to the board. If you take it out from the fridge, you peel the acetate, the cling film, rather than just pull the cake, because it can get stuck to the surface. I'm just going to set my cling film in here. Now, if you are doing a project and you have to finish it quite soon and you don't have the time to build on a separate board, you will just do it right onto the board. Same thing will happen. except the fact that you obviously don't put a cling film. You will start building the cake in the same way, and then you will need to make sure that you finish the top nicely. But in here we've got time to do it on this way. I'm going to use a plastic ring to build, but obviously if you want to invest and get some professional rings, those are quite sturdy, and you can use them to cut your cake and also to build. What I practically recommend is to get, for any cake up to the size 7, you can get a set of round cutters. This probably is going to cost you about 10 to 12 pounds, but you've got so many cutters in here, and so practically you can do every single size up to size 7. Then when it gets to sizes over 7, I would suggest get a collapsible ring, and because this is adjustable, and then you can go for even like huge cakes. And then you can even use this to cut. So if you want to just cut to the size required, and because when you start opening this, it starts getting a little bit flimsy. If you've got large cake to cut, layers to trim, then just stick some tape. If you are worried about the width of the sheet, say, okay, but I need a very large cake and this is too narrow, like here, then you can add another piece and then just cut it. That's no problem. So then you've got the full width. So you cut this bit, and then whatever is missing, you put this bit in there and then recut, and you've got that layer complete. So no reason to panic. I think this is great, and again, probably it will cost you about, I think there used to be like 10 pounds in a set of round and square. So you can do both of them. When you do a square, obviously you have to make sure that your acetate paper has the right edge already done, so that your cake comes out really nice and sharp on the edges. In my case, as I'm going to use the plastic rings. This is a very common size for us in the bakery, so I've got lots of plastic rings, but those have been made by us, so I can't really say they will be easy to get. But if I look at one of my cutters, yeah, that's just perfectly the size I'm going to use. So if you don't have this and you buy yourself a set of cutters, all you have to do is just to use this to cut, and then you put this in here and you start using this to build your cake. So no problems. If you go for the professional range, say you go, you get into more the pastry type of desserts, you make like entremets or other things, those will be necessary, absolutely necessary. So practically you just do more with less equipment. What I was looking for. Okay, so I'm just going to start building my cake. Obviously, when you decide what size your cake is going to be, so say I want it like 7-inch tall, and you know that your cake has let's see, what's the, I think it's about 3/4 of an inch. Going to get, yeah, it looks like an inch, but I would say 3/4 of an inch, because it's a soft sponge and you will start sinking down when I will start adding the heavy stuff. So I will probably say for a 7-inch cake you should have about 5 layers, because by the time you put the layers and then the filling in between, you reach that high. So then you know, okay, how many layers can I get for a 7 out of a tray? Then you can just make a note on your book. It's your phone. Is it yours? I was worried that it's mine. I don't think it's mine.
It's yours. I think so,
yeah.
Put it on silent.
Probably. so that you know how many layers you need to bake, so you don't have to just bake too much, or you end up baking too little and you cannot finish your process. It's always something which you can get on the side, and you know, to say, yeah, this is how much I need to make one tray, ingredients wise, and that tray is going to give me that kind of finishing. Okay, and in here, if you see about, I've said about the leveling, if I will, that's a bit, okay, so just on the fourth slot, yeah, if I go in here and try removing, it's just a little bit, but it's in between 3 and 5, 3 and 4, sorry, 3 and 5. If I try to do it here, it's going to cut too much, and I just don't want that. Or you can just do it by the eye, and this is how it should be done. I know quite a lot of people will intend to just remove this, and I would suggest to do that if you've got a very tall cake, because this might come away. It's not going to be the case with our cake, because our cake is soft. We'll also put some caramel syrup, so layers will get stuck.
Yeah.
But when you do the Victoria sponge, if you don't remove this peel, then it might come off, and then you might be left with just the layer without the cream. So I will say shave that off. It's really nice. It tastes really good because it's like caramelized sugar. Maybe use it to make cake pops or other things. Okay, so let's see how many layers I can get out of here. I can cut another one here. Go right here in the middle. Now I've got a little bit missing, but I know I'm going to coat that with buttercream, so it's no problem to have those little bits missing. Because if I do it this way, then I can take 4 layers out of my cake. Okay, now in here, obviously this doesn't match perfectly, so what I'm going to do, going to shave off this bit. Okay, and then just do the same on this side. Okay, and then just place it this way so that I can get the 4th layer. Yeah, so practically I've got enough here for a 5-inch cake, so just one 7-inch cake, 5-inch tall. And all those crumbs, I use them for different things. Some of them, the dry bits can be made super crumbly and they can be used for cheesecake. The larger pieces, for example, if you make mono portions, like the small desserts, I'm not sure if you've seen those because they are not super popular around this area. They're mainly in central London. If you pop into a posh kind of cake shop, you might see them. I think the Coffee Nero, they started to promote some of them, but because they're all with chocolate mousse and, you know, fresh stuff, they don't do them very much because they have to be served on the day. So they prefer to just put some carrot cake or God knows what kind of cake, which you can safely store on the display for a week. Okay, but that's just the shape and size you need for that. I also do sort of dessert where I use pieces. I cut this like probably in about 3 pieces, and it's like a chocolate sauce. So I dip those into that chocolate sauce, and then I cover with nuts, like grinded nuts, and it's just delicious. That's one of my son's favorite dessert. So you practically don't lose anything, or you can just mix this with some cream and just make like kind of a pudding with those pieces of cake and the cream. It just tastes lovely. Because in the end, when you scoop your you know, cake, that's what you eat, a piece of sponge with some cream. Okay, Now with the chocolate one, obviously works the same. Yeah. So I'm going to just cut the end, and then go here in the center. And again, join those pieces. And I can tell you, my husband is subscribes to my scraps. He doesn't like them with cream or anything, but he gets here them with a cup of tea or coffee, and he's just, you know, fine with that. He doesn't need anything else. Okay, so but for now I'm going to that's obviously you can taste the sponge and just give them to the rest of the family and see what they've got to say. I mean, they will either way taste the final product. So you can get their feedback and see if you're going to make this kind of cake again, or you will stick to your traditional recipes.
Yeah, it looks good.
It is. So you can taste it, and you can also just taste the mixes. Now I'm going to use this, but with those acetate strips. I'm sure you've came across with them. This, for example, I think it's 8-inch. Yes, 8-inch tall. This is probably about 6. My opinion, if you go, but don't buy on Amazon, you can get those sold by different brands, and they can be very flimsy. The PME brand is very good and it's sturdy. So you buy one box, and then you can use this for many projects because it's got 5 meters, so you can cut to the size required for, say, maybe like a 12 or the biggest cake you think you're going to make, because you can only go for to a certain diameter, even when you bake on around 10, because it doesn't fit into your oven. So just get a big one, and then get a small one to fit your 7/8, because that's the size you will make the most. And then height wise, if you don't make super high cakes, you can trim the paper, or you can have 2 heights. But if you buy a 4-inch, you have to go the other way. If you want to get this for a taller cake, you put 2 strips and you tape them. So either way will work, but depends on how often you use one width and one height against the other. But I'm going to use this tall one. That's no problem for me. Now I'm going to put a layer of buttercream right at the base, and the reason why I will do that is just because I know when I build the cake upside down, when I will flip the cake, the top will be perfectly clean. Now if you think it's too challenging to pipe, what you can do is you can either pop a template underneath, so you can, or draw a circle so you know the size, and you can just do it here and then put the rest of the things in there. So whatever works for you, or you can do it this way, but then it will be fiddly to fit this inside. So whatever you prefer, you can go for. Just looking at the cling film, I have to make sure that the cling film is perfectly flat, because if not, all the creases will reflect on the top of my cake. So if I put this in here, or if you want just a thin layer, let me just show you that way. Just want a thin layer, what you can do, so you don't want to put a very thick layer, and you can get your palette knife. You can spread. Now I know a lot of people are complaining about the air bubbles. Okay, well, to get rid of the air bubbles, you have to keep spreading this till it gets nice and smooth. And then when you kind of cannot see those bubbles, that means you are having a smooth finishing. Obviously you can do that before you spread onto the board, but that's how you get rid of the air bubbles. Say, okay, I don't really want a very thick layer, so it looks nice and smooth. I only want that much. But I don't have a template, so I don't really know the size of the cake. See if I've done it large enough. So I'm just going to place this on the top. When I will take it out from the freezer, this will come off very easy because the bottom tends to firm up. So lots of like flexibility on how you can do it. But just when you place the bit on the top, try to put it right on the edge. And you start building, and when you flip the cake upside down, the top is kind of leveled, and you don't have to worry about scraping or do anything because it's just done for you. I'm going to start building the cake, and I'm going to start with 4 pieces, which I'm going to place in here. First layer, regardless what size is the cake, that's just a bonus. So I put this on the scale, and I start building. Oh, okay. And I said, okay, how much syrup should I put? That's everybody's, choice. I've got about 24 grams. So next time when I will do, I'll just keep an eye and go for this pretty much same amount, so that I don't get one layer softer than the other. So it just works in the same way. Now if I've got anything colored to go into the center, and I want the cake to be turned to be kind of whitish or light in color, and I don't want to see any color on the side, then it would be good to put a dam around the layer. So if I can squeeze, and you don't have to be super precise. I'm just squeezing because I don't have a right position in here to fit my whole hand. But all I have to do is to seal the ends. Now it was like 30 grams, yeah, for the syrup. I didn't turn it to 0, did I?
No.
Yeah, so it was 30, and that's almost 60, so about 30 grams. So when you work out the quantity of buttercream, you have to take that in consideration. So, but that's how you get skilled and quick at what you do, by just doing the same thing all the time. So when you start, I will always suggest do the same size cake for a few times. You get familiar with that, and then you dream about. You can wake up in the morning and then just do it without thinking about, because you get so familiar. But it just looks like it sealed the ends, and you will not have any traces of color going onto the side. And then you start putting in whatever you prefer. In my case, I think I'm going to put some of the chocolate ganache. This is going to get super firm, but I've just made it this morning, so it's still kind of liquidy. It will go in a fridge and a freezer, and it will firm up. So just going to set this to 0 and see. I think I'm going to go for about 100 grams. Now if it's 2-3 grams more or less, that's no problem. And I will also need to get a spoon. Because it's runny, it will level, so I don't have to worry too much about that. But I don't want to put too much, because if I put too much, it will overflow and I will get the edges quite messy. So just have to have to be careful. Now my next layer, it will be a chocolate layer. Just going to place that in here. Here. And here. Okay, I've got a bit of a chocolate on the side. Just going to try not to squish too much to get my my chocolate ganache out. Now I've got 237, so I can see that the layer is 137 grams, so about 130 grams. That is important because when you build your cake, say you get asked to make a cake for 20 people, and then you need to know what kind of weight your cake should have in the end, so people will get a good size slice of cake.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes you just cut the cake and think that this is how much, but for tall cakes it works differently because it's very hard to estimate, and we judge by the weight. So we say about 100 grams per person, and then that means you have to have a 2 kilogram cake. So if you know that your layers are about 130 grams, and then you can judge how much filling you have to put in between to get to the 2 kilograms end product. Yeah. But that 2 kilogram is just the cake, so you don't take the coating on consideration, because sometimes people don't eat the coating. It might be fondant, again they don't necessarily eat the so you have to make sure that you've got that amount of cake to feed everyone. So just going to sprinkle again. So when I do mine, I don't actually think too much, and I don't use necessarily the scale. Yeah, but it's just trying to give you some. Okay, again to 0. Now I don't have to use this because on this layer, because I've got the vanilla cream, and that's the pastry cream. I'm just going to turn the back because it's quite heavy. And all I have to do is just to try and match what I did previously. So I had 100 grams of ganache and I had 30 grams of cream. Yeah? So theoretically I should go for the same amount, but I already have about 130, and yeah, so I've got about 182. If I really want every layer to look the same, I will have to go for the same quantity.
Yeah.
I don't really care because it's not for a presentation, it's just for us. So I will leave it like with 182, but when I will get the next layer of vanilla, it will be 182. Yeah, so even if they vary in thickness, at least if you get them even, they will look nice. I'm going to put now my vanilla. Again, using my little stamp. To push down. Again. Just going to put my frame of buttercream. And then set to 0. On. That's 100 grams. And I'll just get it level. And I also know that the chocolate ganache is usually quite a strong flavor, comparing with the chocolate mousse, for example. So I know 100 grams will be just fine. Okay, going to place that in here as well. If I've got any chocolate coming through, that's no problem, because anyway I've got a combination of colors, so I'll have to coat with enough buttercream to kind of cover the color of my sponge. Okay, and then set this to 0 again. So we'll just have to try and set this to 182. And get another. Just going to get this bit in here. Okay, and then get some more syrup. And now I have to decide if I want to put more in here, because if I will put more, it's going to be a very thick layer. I don't want a very thick layer of cream. I will have to turn it, and if I will turn it, this is going to end up with a thick layer, which I don't want to, because you can slide on the board. Or I have to extend this and get another strip and fit one more layer, which I'm not going to do. So I will just stick with what I've got here. I'm going to add a bit of buttercream just to seal this bit in here. And just leave it as it is.